want to welcome everybody to the tech webinar today. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Barry here has developed a great assistive technology tool that I use myself. It's like Hair Club for Men. I'm also a client. But it's referred to as the low vision reading stand. It really is much more than that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Barry now, and Barry's going to present, and he'll open it up for questions when the time comes for that. So take it away, Barry.
Oh, thank you very much, Dan. It's a privilege to be here because this project started about a year ago with VABVI, and I've had a wonderful time getting to know folks with the organization. And as I've gone out to talk to people in different locations, different service organizations, different states, it's just been a real pleasure to always have this anchor back with VABVI. So thank you guys very much for the fun and support. So just as an introduction, my name is Barry Hulce, and I'm a founder of a company called Vista Creations. And I design and I build products with the goal of helping people overcome limitations. And also my greatest hope is that people have some fun, and enjoyment with the products that I make as they continue to use the products. So I wanted to start with a background story of a community partnership or collaboration that came together. And the goal of that project was to help folks with a vision impairment overcome some of the challenges faced when using new technologies like iPhones and iPads. And after I kind of go through that story, then I'll share with you the product that came out of that partnership. So the story starts about a year ago with a woman named Ali Fuddy. And Ali works for Vermont Association of the Blind and Visually Impaired, or VABVI, the folks hosting. And Ali is a teacher of the visually impaired and works really closely with students all around the state. So Ali, over time, had recognized that there's this rapid adoption of technology, the iPhones and iPads, with the students, because the ability to zoom in on images and the ability to see presentations from afar and the ability to do text to listening type of OCR activities and the ability to access media is just something that the students were rapidly adopting as everybody else. But Ali's also really conscientious about ergonomics and was observing that as these students were using the tablets, if they're using a traditional stand that's on a table, or laying down flat on a table, that because of the closeness needed for the focal distance, that the kids were spending the whole day with their hunched back, leaning over really close to the tablet, or they were holding the tablet up really close to their face. And it's leading to really uncomfortable and not fun exchanges or usages of the technology. So really give her a lot of credit for recognizing, putting that together, that this is a device that can be super helpful for the people that she's working with and helping, but at the same time, there's just these limitations. So Ali reached out to the general community of makers and designers in the Burlington area and asked if anybody was interested in helping and doing a project. And it fits exactly with what I love to do and the mission of Vista Creations, to create these kind of fun products that help people overcome limitations. So I went to VABVI and sat with her and a couple other people and observed them using the tablet stands, or not at that time, but using what they had to understand what really some of the challenges were. And after I watched that and I saw the usage, there were 4 things that really struck me as a solution. Whatever we came up with, it really had to help overcome. The first one was that whatever the platform is that would hold the technology, the iPad or the iPhone, it would need to raise high enough that somebody sitting at their normal, comfortable position would be able to raise the tablet up high enough so that it would be at eye level. And really didn't see anything else out there that could do that. The second thing that really needed to be developed was that the platform that held the device would need to be able to go from vertical position, where somebody's reading and engaging or looking at a presentation, and it also needed to be able to go at least horizontally, flat, because some of the applications were reading something that was on the ground, on the table. So it needed the flexibility to go from vertical all the way to horizontal. The third thing that I recognized we'd really want to strive for is building a device that could hold everything. It was one size fits all. So I recognize there's so many devices out there that do things like dedicated screen readers and image viewers and magnifiers and all of these different things. But most people nowadays have a digital device in their pocket or with them most of the time, and the ability to put that on a stand, whether it's a small phone or it's the largest of iPads with a case. The third objective of the solution was to figure out, well, how could one size fit all? How could you just have one device solution capable of holding everything? And the last thing that really became obvious is that portability and the ability to move things around easily needed to happen. So that was one of the design criteria that came out. Whether kids using it, able to move it from desk to desk, or at circle time going on the floor, or for adults, the ability to put it on the kitchen table and move it around easily, and then pick up your device, move it to the kitchen where you're doing whatever, reading the mail, or in the den in the lobby. So that was the fourth. It really needed to be lightweight and portable. So I went off and did a lot of research. I looked through magazines, and I looked on Amazon, I looked through the ACH catalog and all the different locations I could to find out if there was a device that existed like that. Well, first off, I found there wasn't. And then I found that if anything was very similar to that, it was just not cost accessible. It was really, really expensive. And that was really counter to what we were trying to figure out and do. We decided to make exactly what was needed. And we started with the belief that technology is just here, that everybody is going to need it and adopt to it. And it would be really valuable to create something for low vision folks that helped people along, with that, and make sure that technology was accessible and fun. So we came up with a mission of building a product kind of with the criteria of, one, it needed to be able to do all of those things that we talked about, hit those 4 areas. The second is try to make it as cost accessible as possible. And the third objective was use responsible manufacturing. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes, what that really means. And I'll show you how they get made. But it was important to us of try to just make what's needed and use recyclable materials. So set out to do that and started by making prototypes. And Ali and I met with a whole bunch of people on Zoom calls, and we sent out prototypes, and we had people use them for a week or so, and they'd try it out, and we would meet online, and then they would say, well, I liked this and I didn't like this, or this broke, or whatever happened to it. So we continued the iteration cycle and over some time. And then one day, after continuously doing these device iterations, one day, all the folks coming in, they said one of two things. They either said, hey, this is perfect. This is exactly, it fits my device. I love it. It does exactly what you guys are talking about. Or they told us that their spouse or their kids or their friends, they took it. And they didn't really get a chance to try it out because somebody else took it, because they found it so interesting and valuable to be able to do other things. And as we asked, like, okay, what are people using it for? Just heard everything from arts and crafts and yoga and, on and on, for reading mail, for looking at cans, for reading in bed. And that was really kind of the epiphany of the whole thing is, while this was designed to help folks with low vision, the learning was that because of those features, the raising up high enough and the ability to move it around and be portable and look down and look up, that resonated with a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. So after that, I created the e-commerce site I'll show you in a couple of minutes, to be able to sell them directly to people. And like I said before, that we're tried to keep the cost as low as possible to make it cost accessible. So they're not really going through distributors, they're not made overseas. It's just straight from being created to anybody that needs one. So that was really how the story. And now, as I'm finding that a lot of people are really interested in, especially service groups, spending time going to service groups, and users to help share and spread the word of what the product is and where it came from. And anybody that is interested or needs help or wants me to come talk to their group, I'm more than happy to. come and visit and share what I've learned and share the product. So with that, let me share my screen here. I'll start again with Blue Vista Creations, and just a really small sole proprietor company. And my mission really is to design products that improve people's quality of life through comfort and fun. And so all the things that I've made and I've put out there are really kind of fall into that. And so a couple of them are in the music world, and some of them like this with a very specific purpose for helping folks with vision impairment. And what I'm showing here is a picture for folks that can't see it of 3D printers. And there are 4 there. There's a 5th one missing, but I have 5 3D printers run all kinds of different materials. And what that allows me to do is I only make however many are needed. So I usually make 30 to 50 stands, and then I go through and I sell them. And when I hear there's a change needed or it's something's not durable enough, I'm able to immediately change the design to adapt to what's happening. This is the way that people are using them. And then I make another batch. All the materials that get used, that is a recyclable material. So when it's all done, it can be recycled and reclaimed. And then it's all being built and manufactured in Vermont. So that's my hope for long-term, is just understand who this would help and go visit with those groups and only make enough that are needed to help out folks that are really interested. So a little bit about the product now on the next page. And I recognize some people I might not be able to see the presentation, so I'll describe it as well as I can. So on the left-hand side, I have a picture of the actual tablet stand, and it's called the LV tablet stand, which stood for Low Vision Tablet Stand. And there are 4 pictures of somebody using the product. And the first picture is somebody is showing their tablet at eye level, raised up high enough so there's easy engagement about 6 inches away from the woman's face. And the next picture is showing a book on the table and the woman reading with the iPad flat. So it's in the horizontal position, raised up again about 4 to 6 inches from her face, but you can see that it's zoomed in on the words. And what I'm seeing use cases are sometimes people will snap a picture of something and then they'll move around that way. And sometimes people live read by moving the book back and forth. The next picture is of a workstation setup. And one of the designs was trying to create enough hand accessibility in the front and the back so that someone's hands with a keyboard would be able to, whether you needed it super close, you could have a keyboard behind the stand, or if you're able to actually see at the 12+ inch range, you can put the keyboard in front. And then the last picture that I'm showing is a traditional iPad stand on a desk with the person hunched over to the needed angle. And if you either have a vision impairment or you've worked with folks, or you're a service provider, this is probably a very familiar sight to you, and seeing how people need to engage, unfortunately. So this was exactly, that picture is exactly the reason why Allie reached out to the world and said, can someone help figure this out, and how this came to be. All right, I switched pages and I have 3 last pictures to show, and then we can move into like question answers. So the criteria that we talked about, the first picture is showing that the normal stand can go from a vertical position, well past horizontal, depending if you need it to look back or not. But the head was made to be able to pivot, significantly all the way through the whole range, anything that might be needed. The middle picture is showing that the height is really adjustable. If someone's really short, or especially kids, then the height all the way down is really needed. And I've worked with a lot of different schools and making sure and kind of optimizing what works for a 4th grader also works for, a full adult, because an objective is try to make one size fits all. So it shows also on the other side that the platform raises significantly high, all the way up to eye level for adults. And the last picture shows kind of how it works. So there are 2 sliders. There's a bottom piece that moves up and down, and then there's a top piece that has a spring mechanism. So that way, by adjusting the bottom piece, you could slot anything from smallest of phones in it, or you move the bottom slider all the way down, and it can hold the largest iPad right now is the 12.9 inch with the Defender case. So that was really the design background and the kind of the criteria. So now I'd love to chat.
Anybody have any questions for Barry?
I just wanted to say that I have had severe back and neck pain. I even tore a cervical ligament. And since I just went out and I bought reading stands, and they have worked very well, and I am now pain-free. So this is very important.
Well, good. I'm glad that you found something that works for you. Did you use that for a book?
Yeah, I haven't used it for a computer.
For the reading perspective, you found what you needed, and you touched on something really important. There are a lot of devices that are purposely made for one purpose, and it's great. There are a lot of image enlargers, and there are OCR scanners, and there are flat scanners, and there are individual things out there that do their purpose really well. And I think the technology series is highlighting several of those in the next few weeks. The goal of this really was to try to couple the need that almost everybody now or in the future is eventually owning an iPad or a tablet or a digital phone, and this was trying to make that experience ergonomically friendly and as comfortable as possible.
I know that one of the benefits, and I don't get any kickbacks from Barry, by the way, when he sells these things, but one of the benefits to the reading stand that I found is that I got my reading stand just about the time that we started having all these Zoom meetings, and it really helped to help me be centered in the screen during these professional meetings I needed to go to, and so that's been a great help for me as well to have the tablet stand to be able to orient where I'm going to be on the screen, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe I'll share something that I'm working on as well with, you may know Judy Dixon, and she is an author, and I believe works for, I want to say, the Library of Congress. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And so she reached out and said, she's completely blind, and she reached out and said one of the things that she's challenged with is online banking, in that getting to a bank is really challenging and cashing a check is really challenging, and was interested trying to figure out, can we work together to build a jig that would hold their two sizes of standardized checks that would hold it. And she really likes the tablet stand. And so when you put it horizontally, is there a way that the alignment would always be fixed at the right focal distance and in the right location, so that autofocus on those applications would work? So yeah, we've gotten pretty far, and I hope in the near future it'll just be another thing to share with people if that repeatability needed for check, autofocus through different applications is something that's needed, then we can certainly add it to the web page and get those to people. But I mean, that's the thing I encourage, is as these daily limitations for people come up, and especially as provider organizations, when someone like Allie reaches out and says, this thing's a problem, does anyone want to fix it? There are people out there like myself that would love to connect and engage and come up with solutions. And it doesn't have to make millions of these things. We only want to make what's needed. So it's been a great journey working with VABVI, and now the extensions of meeting people who have these other ideas of things that can help. So yeah, and that's the one. So the check stand jig will be coming up pretty soon.
Very cool. Very cool. And we've talked about using the reading stand for other purposes too, especially the larger size. It could also be a writing stand, to bring print up closer. You could put a clipboard, clip a clipboard into the jaws of it, and you could use it as a writing stand to bring papers and documents closer to you with your signature guides and your line guides and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different ways of using this particular platform to do something like that.
Yeah, certainly looking into that one, and if the stability of something that's much heavier of a book, figuring out how would you do that, keep it super light, portable, without making it the durability and the heaviness and the strength that would be needed to come along with it, putting a 5-pound book as opposed to a half-pound iPad on it. Yep, so that's in the thinking. If you've used one before, the other thing that's in the hopper for thinking is, as I said before, my goal is to have a one-size-fits-all. And one type of the stand has an X platform, which is very stable, and the other one has a narrow platform. And when I showed the pictures, they were both in there. I would love to figure out how the feet that go extend in both directions, 2 of those are able to fold up, so that for the portability of putting it in a backpack, or if you have desk space issues, you can just utilize 2 of the feet. But when you do need the additional stability for like a book or a really large size iPad in a case, then you also have the added stability. So that's in the future. I'll try to figure out how to incorporate or integrate the 2 versions that exist now into the best of both.
How does one go about, or what is the preferred or best way for one to go about ordering one?
But the website is lvtabletstand.com, and on the website there is an e-commerce page for shop, and
Nice.
You can click it. The current cost is $60 for a stand. We'll leave it at that, $60. My hope is I make more of these and operationalize and be able to buy things in bulk. I know I can continue to bring the cost down. So that's where the target is now. And the website takes credit cards if you're interested. And there are a lot of organizations that need to use a purchase order, and I'm totally fine with that. And on the website, there's also an email, and folks email me, then they ask for a W-9, and I send the W-9 back, and then they create a purchase order, usually on behalf of a school system. And then after I see that they've arrived safely with the post office, then I send an invoice and they send back. So depending if you're an organization that needs POs, I can certainly support that. But the quickest, easiest way is to order directly on the website with a credit card.
And Barry, could you tell the group, you're telling me about how you've adapted it for playing board games with your family at a distance?
Oh, yeah.
You want to share that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, some of the use cases I've heard from people are just so interesting. And I was sharing before we started with Dan, one of the use cases that we have. So every week or so, we get together with our family who's distributed across the United States. I have parents in New Mexico, my sister's in another place in New Mexico. My kids are in Burlington and us here in South Burlington. And so we try to have family board game night. And over time, I mean, I didn't force these stands on the family when I say everybody has one, but they all have one. And when we have these conversations, we all put their phone or their tablet in and have these. So we're doing board games where everybody has just like on Zoom, and it has a little square for their interaction. And then I take one with a phone camera and I point it down at the board. So we've been playing boards where everybody can actually see the full board on one of the Zoom screens, and then you can see everybody else. So we've played, Family Feud and all these types of things that would be pretty challenging, if you didn't have the ability to be able to look down and zoom in on things. And so it fit that case, really well. I also hear, a pretty common one as I've transitioned. I started with Allie and really was focusing on how do you help kids. And then as I've worked more and more with adult populations, a really common use case I'm seeing is that the stand just goes on the kitchen counter and the iPhone or the tablet is there, and the Zoom or the camera app is always on. And then as the mail comes in for the day, slide it underneath, or a can or a recipe book or anything for daily life where you'd probably go grab your magnifier or have an image a machine or enlarger. You just have what is already there, your iPad, just sitting there because it's usually laying there on the table anyway. But it's really becoming, for some people, integrated into life to be the always on magnifier. And I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And one other I'll share use case that I would have never thought of. I'll be honest, this is just a limitation of my thinking before I got involved in the project. We sent one to, I won't name him, but someone that is fully blind as a tester. And I was just always really curious, what in the world if someone's really blind? fully blind, how would this help? And I've just been amazed at how creative a lot of people are. So one person that's fully blind using one, and I don't remember the name of the program, but when they need to use something on the computer that it isn't able to be interpreted, there's a service where you can connect with somebody who can remote screen into you as long as they can see your computer and then they're able to help you. So they turn they put their iPad on it, and then they turn it around and they put it on the desk, like where their test would be, so that the person on the phone, the tech help, can actually see the full screen. So they're using it as kind of an extension for the other person, so that they're able to now become the tech help and remotely log in, and then help them through all of their things. And like I was sharing before about the check jig, Judy is fully blind, and it's just amazing. I watched her do a lot of tasks through a Zoom, and how she uses the tablet stand is incredible. And it helped me realize that there need to be some ways to know when things are always lined up. So I'll call them detents, or because once something becomes repeatable for her, she's able to use it for just a wide variety of things, like putting in checks, but just needs to be able to have a repeatable alignment on things. And so yeah, it's been really cool to see the things people are coming up with, for being able to use their devices in ways that I hadn't really thought of.
Excellent.
And I will call out Marjorie she has purchased 3, a huge supporter. So Marjorie, thank you. But she has right now the record for the farthest one away. So she sent one to her sister in Guam, and who just received it. Before it was Alaska was the farthest I had sent one, but yep, Guam took the cake for the farthest. So thank you, Marjorie. I appreciate the support.
Well, thank you for being so persevering about that. I gave Barry the wrong address, and so it went all the way to Guam and back, and poor guy had to do it all over again. Oh my goodness. So she finally got it. She loves it.
Glad it arrived.
And just for the people on the call, the service he was referring to is called Be My Eyes. That's a free service where you can use your tablet or your phone to have someone help you by using the camera on your phone to see what you're trying to look at or read. And then another service that does the same thing, but it's a paid service, is one called Iris Glasses, and they have an app that you have a paid service where there's professionals who, not just volunteers, that help out with that service.
So if I were to order one, what's typical turnaround time? Did you manufacture these at your house?
Yep. We usually have it in the mail the same day. And what's really cool is it has shocked people when, like, especially in Vermont, when sometimes it shows up the next day.
I have a question. Would the stand work better with Be My Eyes or Ira?
Both would be equally useful, actually.
Because I don't know which one, could guide because I'm totally blind. And when I lined it up, I think I'm lined up. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm lined up. So I was just wondering.
Well, they've got volunteers all around the world on Be My Eyes, and they've got 24 hours a day people working at the IRA company as well. So you could put it in the stand and then use either. Actually, the first 4 minutes on IRA are free too. So if you're going to take less than 4 minutes to just check in with them and make sure you're centered, you could call into either one and then log out of that app and then head on to your meeting.
I have a technical question. It's just because you're here and available, and I've never heard. How long does it take a 3D printer to print out something like a piece?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, if it's just a generic piece, in general, it really depends on how big something is, or basically how much volume there is, and also how complex the shape is. So something like a rectangle or a square, like if you're trying to print out something like a Rubik's Cube, that's a lot faster than something that would have lots of curves and twists. But so specifically to this, it takes about, if you've seen one or had one before, the base piece that has the cross members or the bow tie bottom thing, that's about 6 hours to print. And then the top, all the sections that has the flat platform, and it has 2 sliders, and then a plunger piece. So there's like 7 pieces. That takes about 7 hours. So one of these to print runs about 13, a little over 12, it's 12 and a half hours. So I can make almost, per machine, I can make almost 2 a day.
Wow.
So if somebody said, you know, I need 100, I kind of just round to 2. The capacity I personally have, I can make about 10 a day. And that's why I usually stay somewhere between, you know, 30 and 50. So if somebody, I've had one order, the biggest order so far has been for 30 of them. So if there are larger orders like that, it really doesn't take me, I want to be able to provide everything within, you know, a week. For most single orders, it's you know, I can always do it in a day or 2 because I have them on hand. But in crossing fingers, if there are larger orders, then, you know, I would be able to do the capacity, you know, in a matter of days.
And you chose to do black, and so would other colors be available?
Yeah, that's a great question too. When you buy, you know, the things get cheaper when you buy more of it. So I started out with black, you know, just a couple of reasons. One was for contrast of the device, and what was typically the cheapest material. Colors are certainly available. So I have on the website too, if somebody wants different colors, I'm, you know, welcome to work with them, and I can print in different colors. The challenge would be I would probably have to charge a little bit more as I got that specific color in stock and held that. But yeah, definitely colors. And with kids, that's one of the things we had always envisioned, that as people started wanting other colors to extend the line. So yeah, thanks for that question. Definitely can do other colors. We should talk if you have a specific color in mind. But generically, yeah, that's the future hope, is offer different colors.
Okay. Well, Barry, we'd like to thank you for your time that you spent with us today, and you know, we sure appreciate your dedication to trying to find solutions to help people with whatever challenges they might have, and you've done a great service with this product. So thank you.
Oh, you bet. Like I said, I love your guys' organization. I've had a great time getting to know you over the last year. Yep, and I appreciate the chance to come and share. So thank you for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
And I'll include Barry's information and contact in an email that'll go out in a couple of days, probably about Friday. I'll send out the notes from Carly's presentation as well as the links to Barry's presentation here today. And so we'll send that out in a newsletter on Friday.
Perfect. All right. Hey, well, thanks everybody.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Barry.
you very much. Take care.